Hey everyone, welcome, welcome. I am so excited to have Minnie with us here. She is one of our WiseMind Soul Warrior School students and soon to be graduates. And she is also coming from a corporate background, and she'll talk a little bit more as we go about some of the things that she's working on. So, Miss Minnie, why don't you introduce yourself first? Let us know how you got into yoga and how we connected. Let's talk about that first.
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me here, Jenny. I'm really excited and I'm just so happy to be a part of this. Funny story, yoga. Okay. So I live here in Southern California. I'm in Coronado Island, and I got introduced by yoga just through work. When we moved from Texas here to California, I just had a little girl, who's 23 years old right now. And I began working at a yoga studio. I was managing the yoga studio part-time. And I didn't know anything about yoga. I was just really focused on, office management. I mean, that was pretty much my background. And I met with the yoga owners, Linda and 𝗀𝗵𝘃 Marquez. And they actually introduced me to yoga. I began doing yoga with them. And I really enjoyed it. It was just so good. I just remember how relaxed I was. I remember falling asleep during Shavasana, and I was so embarrassed because my manager had to wake me up, who was Linda. But, she was a grace her heart. She was really nice. She just said, you know what? You're just really absorbing, the transformation from, the civilian world to the yoga world,
Right.
So yeah, I was there. I was there for a couple of years, and then I noticed that parents were asking if they had kids yoga. And at that point they didn't. And my daughter was only probably about five years old. And I remember she had asked me what yoga was. What is it that I do, And I said, well, it's a really great, I said, it's like stretching, exercising. It's like taking care of your body. And we went out in the backyard, pulled out a beach towel, and I began showing her some of the asanas, what you do. And, then at that point, her friends were outside. They noticed what we were doing, and they began wanting to enjoy our game per se. And we ended up doing like the alphabets in yoga for kids. And then it just continued, I began being the yoga teacher in our neighborhood. And some of the moms were calling me and asking me, hi, Minnie, I heard that you teach yoga for my daughter. Do you teach adults? And I'm like, no, wait. This was only for my daughter and I, but your daughter is just enjoying the fun. So then, it just continued growing when I ended up asking my manager, Linda, if they were open to possibly having a kids yoga there at the studio. And, of course they said, yes, we'd love to have it. But of course, we needed the certified yoga instructor.
Right.
So I did. I went through a kids yoga workshop, and I got certified, and it was perfect, and I ended up teaching kids yoga at the studio and at some of the elementary schools, here in Coronado where I live.
Right.
So that's
let me pause you there for a second.
yeah.
And we'll come back to that because I want to talk more about that towards the end when we get into what you're doing now with kids yoga. So share for a minute with the audience how we connected, how you and
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And then I want to talk about when we got on a consultation call, what that was like. If you can share just share what it was like getting on a call with me. Like, I'm not even
absolutely.
You share that so that somebody else listening to this or listening to the replay.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Well, okay. So first of all, when you and I connected, Jenny, I just felt like I was talking to one of my old friends that I hadn't talked to in a while. I mean, we just connected. You were just very gracious, very open, and just reading the site. I think I had seen your Facebook posting, I believe, and it really just called to me. Just being a independent, spiritual career woman. I feel like we put so much pressure on ourselves, trying to juggle as much as we can, from being a mother, a wife, a professional, independent, career woman. And, sometimes we feel that, we just go through so much and there's so much pressure and we really don't understand where these things are coming from. And what was really nice is when I met with Jenny, it was just talking to a sister. It was just talking to someone that you could really trust. You could just be so vulnerable and humble with her. And this was the first time we met. And just understanding what the yoga psychology is all about. It's just understanding, to me, yoga psychology with what Jenny brings is learning what's behind it, understanding what the root is, understanding, the reason we all do yoga, understanding the mental side of it, understanding the spiritual side of it, understanding the growth, understanding the life, understanding the breath, understanding how this is really going to be so beneficial for our lives, for the purpose that we are here. And I really enjoyed it. I felt like, the conversation we had when I was sharing with you about my background, about, things that were going on with me, you were able to really dial in, authentically. I just felt like, when you talk to someone, of course, when you talk to someone the very first time, we are reserved, we are guarded. We don't know who we're approaching. But when you're talking to someone that actually understands, has also been there, just shows that empathy. It's a blessing. It's very rewarding. And I feel like when you meet others similar to Jenny and, the other sisters that I call, you really get to build a bond. You get to build, a lifetime relationship, as we're going through this journey together through this yoga psychology. It was really a huge blessing in disguise. It really was. And I always say thank you to Jenny, and, the girls, are great too. And I've really learned so much, through this yoga psychology. It's really been beneficial for me. Also understanding, others that are around me in my life, like my family, my children, my loved ones, and understanding, their characters, and understanding who I am in this life. And this yoga psychology has truly helped me really benefit that growth and relationship with me, as well as, the universe.
Well, I love that, Minnie, because, well, first of all, it makes me laugh because remember we talked about this before, like that I was at the beach at the time, and I think it was actually like 8 or 9 o'clock at night my time. I was at the beach because I'm on the East Coast, y'all, and Minnie's on the West Coast, so it was like a 3-hour time difference, and so I'm literally like at the beach in a hotel having this like consultation with Minnie. And like she said, we had never connected, but it was like two soul sisters connecting. Yeah. And it's like such a blessing. Like you said, it really truly is a blessing for me when I get on the phone like that with somebody and the way that we connected.
Yeah.
And I would say a majority of women that I get on the phone with, that's the case.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because how you said about talking to a friend, that's what a majority of people say. It's like getting on, like us having this conversation right now.
Yeah.
When I interviewed Rachel last week, she's like, yeah, it's pretty much like this, like what we're doing right now. She's like, there's no pressure. It's not a sales call. Jenny's not here to like talk people into stuff. Like she's here to listen and support and bring people into the community that want to be in the community, that are ready for healing and transformation.
Yeah.
And so it's pretty much like just me listening, like a consultation of what are the things you're struggling with, what you want to get out of it for those of you that are wanting to do a teacher training or wanting to do a coaching certification, or if you're doing it for your own healing and transformation. And then how can I help you? Like, where do you see your future self and what's that gap? And that's pretty much it. And if it's not a good fit, like I'm not going to recommend, somebody coming and joining.
Right. Yeah, I remember you said that. Yeah, because you wanted to see if this was something that, would benefit me. And I truly respected your honesty, to that, and that was really helpful because again, it's not a sales pitch call, whatsoever. It's more authentic for your life. It really is. And, I've had, over 20 years in corporate world. So I can understand when it comes down to that helmet that we wear, in the corporate life.
Right.
But this is extremely opposite, and what's really interesting when I went to the retreat, in Asheville in North Carolina, what I really enjoyed is, meeting other women that are coming from, different places, different professions. And I just remember how, I don't know, it's just so, the energy is so, it's so inviting. It's welcoming. It's like, again, it's like going to one of your best friend's house, and you get to just be yourself, and you get to just be humble and authentic and, talk about life, talk about, what's happening. And, Jenny, I don't know, Jenny needs several clones. That's what I got to say, because I don't know how she does this. I really don't. And I think she has several clones. I don't know. I'm going to find out. But, it's like she's just, she just works around the clock, exactly. I mean, when we first met, she was at the beach. She was on vacation, but she was just so Jenny, she was just herself. And I think that's so beautiful. When you get to meet someone that is representing, whether it's their company, whether it's their family or, what I saw with Jenny is she has done all of this work, and she is just so authentic to share the experience that she has gone through, which is very vulnerable, and it really gives a lot of trust within herself, within the universe, to share that with others that she's just meeting for the first time,
Mhm.
And that's something that I truly respected of you, Jenny, is because you got to share what you've gone through, what your experience, your journey has been that brought you here. And it's
Mhm.
about your story, your life story. And
Mhm.
to me, when I meet someone that can be so open that way and they're just so heartfelt, it really opens my heart and it allows me to share my story.
Mhm.
And I feel like that's how you set that up, and that's how you brought all of us together, even from that time at the retreat.
Mhm.
I mean, we were only there for that weekend. And I remember telling Jenny, when I left Sunday, I was sad. I was really sad. I got so connected with these women that I've never met. But
Mhm.
it was just such a beautiful blessing. It was such a transformation, just the way we all bonded and we all shared, through our own life experience. And,
Mhm.
you know, I mean, Jenny, you really did a phenomenal job. You really did.
Oh, well, thank you, girl. Well, let me pause for a second. I just want to, for those of you out there, right, for the people that registered for the Silence Your Inner Critic and for the
Oh, yeah.
for happiness, I wanted to say this. I'm going to post the connection call link in the comments. We have actually closed the enrollment doors for new students right now, so there is a wait list. So if you watch the replay, you can put 𝗶𝗶 in the wait list to be put on the wait list. But let me put the connection call link here in the comments, and that will take you right to my calendar through the 5th, through Saturday. So it's this window coming up in the next 4 days. Okay, 5 days, whatever it is. All right, so that is for, again, the students that registered for Silence Your Inner Critic workshop and the ones that registered for Yoga for Happiness. For new students, again, we've closed the connection calls, but we're doing a wait list. Okay, so let me just say that. Okay, so Minnie, first of all, let me just say that thank you so much, for your kind words. I can't even, we talk about the love languages, right? When we're getting into learning about your authentic self in module 1. And that is a huge part of figuring out how you love yourself, right? Is really learning about who you are at your core and really being able to reconnect with your inner child and reconnect with who you are with your authentic self, who you were right before you had all these hurts and trauma and disappointment, all the things, reconnecting with your little girl, right, inside you. And for my love language and my journey, one of them is words of affirmation. And so anytime I get, words of affirmation, it's very meaningful to me. And I think it's meaningful for a majority of women, because I have seen a majority of women, words of affirmation is one of the top 2 or 3 or top 1, love language. And so one of the things that I do in my journey that has helped me is I listen to a ton of podcasts, a ton of ministry, a ton of pastors, a ton of, I said podcasts, YouTube videos, like movies. I read books on audio. I read regular books, like all the things. And part of what that does, other than feeding the fact that I'm going to be a lifelong student, because I'm a huge, obviously learner, I will go the rest of my life, never stop learning and growing. I have literally an audio book list of 50 books. Okay. So my point is I'm constantly wanting to learn and grow in all areas of my life, not just yoga. But that is a way that we can feed ourselves that motivation and inspiration.
Mhm.
and knowing that it doesn't have to come from our partner, from our
Right.
husband, from friends, from
Right.
clients, right?
Yeah.
That it ultimately, we can reparent ourselves and love
Yeah.
ourselves and give ourselves like the things that we need. Does that make sense? So
Right.
thank you
Mhm.
so much for those kind words. And the retreat was a blessing for me. I mean, it was incredible to lead it and to
Mhm.
stand back and watch you guys. Like every single retreat that I do,
Yeah.
I'm exhausted afterwards
Yes.
because I put so much energy right into
Me
it. I do
too.
have to allow myself about 2
Me
weeks
too.
afterwards to recover.
Yeah.
But when I'm there, I
Yes.
am pouring like so much love and energy into
Yes.
you guys, and
Yes.
I can feel it. And I love to sit back and watch
Yeah.
and like observe the transformation, and like watching you guys like in the fire transformation
I
ceremony.
love that.
Right.
Yes.
So you guys
Yes.
like, sitting there reading your letters, you all, that
Yes.
each woman read their letter
Mhm.
of what they were wanting to release in
Yeah.
front of everybody else in the circle, in the sacred circle, and
Mhm.
then burned it in the fire.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
that's the third one of those I think we've done.
Mhm.
And I'll be doing another one in Sedona coming in
Oh,
October.
good.
We'll be
Okay.
doing a fire transformation ceremony. So
Yeah.
um,
Oh gosh, that was inspiring. I mean, that
that's super powerful.
yes, it
And
was
I wish
just a lot of surrendering, releasing, surrendering.
yeah, I was looking for my knife if I had it. I don't see it right here, but you remember how we used like the sword?
Yes.
Yeah, so you basically claim it, right? You lift it up
Yes.
and you claim it to release it,
Yes.
because you can't fully heal and transform until you've
No.
released the things that aren't serving you anymore.
Yeah.
And if you're still
Yeah.
holding on to those things,
Yeah.
especially those
Let
limiting
it
beliefs or
go.
whatever the thing is, you can't
Right.
fully step into your purpose.
Right.
Um,
Mhm.
so one other thing I want to go back to with like the call stuff, by the way, that's interesting is one of the things that a student said that I'll never forget is she said that when she got on a call with me, it was the most non-judgmental space
Yeah.
that she had ever experienced talking to anybody. I
Mhm.
mean, what a like
Yeah.
that I created such a safe space for her that
Mhm.
she felt again the most unjudged
Yeah.
that she'd ever felt. And
Yeah.
I can tell you that has been a huge like part of my healing and transformation, right? Is to not judge myself,
Right.
right? And all the years of the self-sabotage
Yes.
and the inner critic voice and allowing the thoughts, right, that
Yes.
don't serve me to come in. And so that's what's been such a huge inspiration to help others do the same, is
Mhm.
because again, like you said, I shared that journey of like I struggled with this.
Yes.
And so I want to help other people not have to
Yes.
struggle with that and not beat themselves up and being able to radically accept themselves. And
Yeah.
radical self-acceptance and self-love is not just confidence. It goes much deeper than that.
Oh gosh,
It's actually
yes.
radically accepting yourself.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
So
it's so much deeper than that, and I'm glad you said that because I think, you know, I just again, during our conversation and more validation when I got to meet, the other women, um, I just felt I felt safe, I mean,
mhm,
it's first, talking to the leader, which Jenny, the teacher, and
mhm,
then talking to the other students as well during that retreat, you just see that resemblance, you see that support, and it was just amazing because you at least for me at times I felt so isolated, where you as a woman, being in corporate, being independent, also being at times a single parent, being married to a military man that was always gone a lot. Um, I really put myself out there, and I just received like so much love back,
mhm.
and it was really nice. It really was. And Jenny, honestly, you set up that platform. you set up that transformation, you set up, that love. And it was just, to me, was such a huge blessing. It really was. And I think, with anyone that really wants to take that time out to experience that, it's so worth it. Your life is worth it. It's really a blessing for you. It really is.
Yeah, and I love that, because there is power in like being together in person like that, right? And so that's one of the reasons why we're doing this Sedona retreat for those that are part of this cohort.
Mm-hmm.
It's mainly for those in the cohort currently and about to start in August, but also like Minnie's considering going. It's also for graduates and people that have been part of the training. So it's invite only.
Mm-hmm.
So that would be October 19th through the 22nd in 2023.
Mm-hmm.
So if that's something that you're curious about and that kind of piques your interest, and who knows, maybe it starts with the retreat and then we talk about, how I work with you one-on-one or work with you with coaching or in a group, or maybe you're interested in like coach, being a yoga psychology coach or a yoga teacher in the future.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy to chat with you about that, any of those things of how we support students. So the other thing too that I think about with you, Minnie, is I also remember like chatting with you about like talking about how you were going to remember you were like booking your flight and trying to figure out how all the logistics. I mean, that's like seriously committed and dedicated that you flew across country. And so did Patricia, by the way. Patricia flew from Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think if there was anybody else from the West Coast.
Yeah.
I think it was just the two of you from the West Coast.
I think it was just us two.
Yeah. And now we have people coming from the East Coast,
to the West Coast. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it really is an honor to lead people through a transformation weekend. It really is.
It was. It was. I'm just, I was just so moved. I really was. It's, yeah. I mean, I didn't even think twice about it. I just thought, I gotta go, this is what I'm gonna do, and yeah, that was a hilarious story, just my adventure getting over there because, even, I mean, the flight was great. It was just arriving to the airport there. I couldn't find a cab. There was no cabs there, and it was just hilarious. But the cab driver I ended up finding, he was just really nice. He ended up, helping me drive to the hotel and then finding out all the restaurants were closed in that area. So he drove me out, like downtown, and he was able to wait for me to get something to eat. That's what I mean. I had an adventure, I had a wonderful weekend. It was a story to tell.
Well, I'm glad that you were there. I'm so grateful.
Yes.
I'm so grateful that you were there. Okay, so let's change gears for a minute. Let's talk about your experience with having a mentor, working in groups, having small groups, and having that support and accountability, having the Facebook group, like my support, being in there twice a month live. You can watch the recording or be there live. What it was like with the learning management system and the on-demand platform. And just so people can hear a little bit about, from a student, what the experience was like with the framework of the program and all the work that we put into it.
Yeah, I think I came in at a good time because I remember you and I met, and then I had signed up, and then I received my manuals, and then I think the retreat was just maybe that next month or two, and it kind of happened back to back. So there was just, I mean, there's so much information. And what I really enjoyed is that at the retreat, when I met with Beth and I met with Lindsay and I met, Patricia, and they were just so helpful.
Mhm.
Everybody is there. Everybody is there to help one another,
Mhm.
and everyone is so open. They share their experience. They share where they're coming from. They share what, you know, their calling is, like what they're planning on doing, how they're planning on applying the yoga psychology, whether it's, just for their personal life, whether it's part of their coaching, their counseling, working with children. I mean, um, and yeah, I mean, when I met with them, we began kind of going through the manual, um, and even online. I mean, we met online with Jenny, but there was also others that would take, small groups, and we would meet once a month as well. And, you know, if I know I had to understand, like how to actually go through each of the modules,
Mhm.
and that was really helpful as far as working with some of the other women, and
Mhm.
who kind of already have gone through this too, and they would just kind of just show you, even resources. I think one of the girls had shared a yoga dictionary book. um,
Mhm.
so there's so many resources and support, and that was
Mhm.
something that I truly admired, especially like Jenny was mentioning. I'm coming from the West Coast, and the majority of the group was coming from the East Coast. And I felt like, how am I going to reach out to them? But everybody, we have the Facebook chat, we have the group chat. We also have, I think, Beth, who I is one of my leaders. She uses WhatsApp,
Mhm.
and she's just always sending out resources and links and where to find what Google documents and so forth. And
Mhm.
um, you will definitely have support in this.
Mhm.
That was something that I really valued, because that was one of my concerns, is that I thought, oh gosh, how am I gonna do this?
Yeah.
Um, but
Well,
yeah.
yeah,
Mhm.
and thank you so much for that feedback, because that's definitely been part of the positive feedback, is the mentors and the small groups and
Yes.
having that additional support
Hmm.
so that you also have accountability.
Right.
So this, even though what we've tried to do is kind of do a blend of a hybrid of it being on demand so that you can do it. And we have a lot of women, by the way, that work full time or
Hmm.
run a business,
Hmm.
right? Or their moms full time or whatever the thing is, right? So everybody is coming from all different places, right?
Yeah.
Everybody's busy. So we're trying to figure out, or we have figured out, how do we make it the easiest for people to
Right.
get through the content. And
Right.
what we've done is, I would say over half of those videos, the content are more like a masterclass style. So you can
Hmm.
be listening in it to a podcast, like a podcast style, it can be on your phone, it can be on the computer. And then most of them have handouts that you can download later, not all, but a
Yes.
majority. And
Hmm.
then we have other content, whether it's yoga, whether it's the breath work and sadhana practice and meditation, whether it's, doing soul work or shadow work or family of origin work, right? A lot of the stuff that we do in module 1 is more your focused time, right? Of doing that soul work,
Right.
identifying some scar patterns, whatever the thing is.
Mhm.
And so that particular content, you do want to have focus time and you do want to
Yeah.
have time. But
Yeah.
I would say over 50% of the content can be on in the background while you're doing other things. Okay.
Yeah, and what I like, Jenny, what you did, which was really nice, at least for me, is in each of those contents, whether it was online or on the table of contents, um, you had like how long each of the lessons were, whether it was
Mhm.
45 minutes, whether it was 30 minutes or an hour. And
Right.
what I like, just being the strategic planner that I am, it helped me allocate, like, okay,
That's right.
it's going to take me like maybe 2 hours to, work on each of these lessons. And
Right.
I could kind of plan my day, and
Mhm.
during the week I could schedule, okay, this is how much time I'm going to put, just so you can just check it off. And there's actually like a checklist too that I
Mhm.
noticed on here.
There's a
So,
checklist on
yeah.
each module. Yep. And
Mhm.
thank you for saying that because we actually did that on purpose. We
Yeah.
went in there, purposely made sure that all the videos had how much time they were,
Right.
because
Mhm.
we spent a lot of time organizing the content too.
Mhm.
And I want to bring that up because Rachel brought this up last week.
Mhm.
And I was so grateful for her to like recognize it, the same thing that you just said, because we spent months and years,
Yeah.
right? This is going on our 4th year of running it. And we put a lot, myself and a team, we have a team that helped put this all together,
Mhm.
right? And we spent a lot of time organizing all the content so that it was easy for you to go through. It was
Yeah.
easy to track.
Mhm.
And you literally can hit complete when you're done with the video. You can go back to one while you're in the middle of watching it and go back to it.
Yep.
But we also have laid everything out, like all the downloads for the handouts. It's all laid out and very organized.
Mhm.
And Rachel basically said that the PhD program that she's doing online, that our program is actually more organized than
Oh
the
my God.
program that she's on right now, which is a huge compliment.
That is a huge compliment.
Yeah, and she also said this was like taking an honorary yoga psychology master's program
Mhm.
because of the level of content and the
Yes.
level of psychology research that I've covered with you guys.
Oh
She's like,
gosh.
even though you're not a therapist, she goes, you clearly have been studying psychology
Yes.
like for going on 10 years.
Mhm.
So she's like, I'm going to give you like an honorary like yoga psychology master's degree. And like you're giving everybody else like an honorary master's degree. I was like, well, that is a huge compliment. And I'm so grateful because it's basically validating my credibility and also all the effort that I
Yes.
have put into this because this is my life's work. It
Yeah.
really is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And like when you and I, back for a minute, rewinding for a second, Minnie, when you and I talked like the first time and you were saying about um, like me sharing my story, um, it is very vulnerable, right, to talk about it. And I remember like, gosh, this is going on 8 years ago now,
Mhm.
might even be more than that. When I was first starting to talk about and share it, right, I couldn't even talk about it without crying.
Yeah.
So it's been a huge like evolution, to be able to share it and talk about it
Right.
in the way that I'm able to now. It's almost like I'm just watching myself in a movie and I'm observing this is, these were the painful things that I went through. And like, here's the things that I did to help
Yes.
transform and heal those things.
Right.
And the thing is that everybody has painful things that
Yeah.
they've dealt with, right? And I call them soul scars,
Mhm.
wounds, right? Our wounds are our wisdom, our pain is our purpose.
Mhm.
Um, I call
That's
them soul
true.
scars.
Mhm.
So every single person you meet has something that they've dealt with. And there's different ranges of things, right? Some
Yeah.
people have had it much worse than others, but
Right.
every single person you meet has something
Right.
that they've dealt with. And whether
Right.
that's in a relationship,
Yeah.
in like as a child,
Right.
whether that's generational trauma, whether
Right.
all the things, all three things,
Mhm.
everybody you meet. So
Mhm.
you know that I'm a big proponent of this. Is like just treat people with kindness and compassion
Yes.
because you never know what somebody's going through, right?
Right.
You
Right.
never know what's going on behind closed doors,
No,
right? Because
you
not
don't.
everybody shares, right? You're not going to get out on Facebook, especially when you're in the middle of whatever the thing is, and
Yeah.
go out and tell everybody what's going on. Okay, so
Yeah.
just be mindful and be like compassionate and just throwing that out there. Um,
Absolutely.
but
Yeah.
what I would love to motivate people to do, Minnie, and I hope that I've done this with you, is I want to inspire and motivate people to share their story, right?
Yes.
and really use yoga as just a platform and much more of a movement or a ministry beyond just teaching a yoga class. And not that there's anything wrong with just teaching a yoga class, because we all got to teach asana and we all got to do the things. Okay. But what I'm talking about is like when you step off the mat, how are you working with your students when they're off the mat? How are you supporting those students off the mat? And how are you being a leader, right? How are you taking the things that you've learned in your story and putting out into the world to help other people? Because each one of us has our own unique story that's going to help somebody else. Right. You have a unique set of students that you're meant to serve. And maybe it's not as a teacher, right? Maybe it's as a leader in a church. Maybe it's as a mom. Maybe it's in your corporate, environment, right? So I'm not sitting here saying that you have to be a quote yoga teacher or a coach to make a difference in the world, to learn these skills and take them out into the world. So that's why, over half the students we have are not even looking to teach. They're going through this for their own healing and transformation and to be a better leader, a better mom, a better wife, a better
just a better person all around. Because I mean, as an instructor myself, I cater more to kids yoga, and what I'm doing is I'm taking yoga everywhere. I'm taking it, at home, I'm taking it at the beach, at the park, I'm taking it at a studio, of course. And that's, basically like what you were sharing is how to share this with others, because it's so true. I mean, the things that I believe that we go through in life that have given us those wounds, those scars, has also given us that growth, that opportunity, that wisdom, that, experience. And that's something that we can definitely share with others, I mean, it may be a child, that may need that wisdom that maybe you went through as you were a kid, it may be another, successful career woman, that may also be going through, the critics, this professional, perfection, critics, coming into that life and helping her. It may be, it may be so many different things. It may be a friend, it may be a neighbor, it may be someone that you meet at the grocery store, that you can tell is going through something, and you're just there at the right time, at the right place to be able to help support that. And that's something that I truly, admired and was my interest with the yoga, but psychology, understanding where it's coming from, and I mean, there's just so much, Jenny, that you can really learn from this, yoga's like, and I love the fact that you're sharing so many different elements, that you're giving, to the students, when you're talking about like the inner critic. And this is something we talked about the other day, I wish they would share this in school. I wish this was a subject that was just, a basic education subject, for kids, because
kids need it.
Need
it. I mean, you and I talked about that, right? Like you and I talked about the fact that if children, well, first of all, you and I both, right? If we had the skills that we know now, right, our lives would have been very different, but that wasn't our journey, right? We wouldn't be able to mentor people the way we do now. It's not our testimony, but if you could help more women in their 20s or in their teens or in their tweens or as kids to learn these things more quickly or earlier in their life. And I agree with you 100%, girl. Like that's a whole nother conversation. That's a whole nother interview. Yes, these skills should 100% be in every single school. emotion regulation skills, meditation skills, mindfulness skills, all the things. Like I could go yoga, psychology, breath work, right? Like so many things that kids need to like really understand like their own feelings, to be able to process them, and then also understanding loving themselves, loving themselves unconditionally, and that, you know, getting outside approval is never going to meet those needs. And then finally, how do you regulate your nervous system and stay in stress resilience so that you can be that calm in the chaos, and that all these things can be happening, whether it's with your peers or you're stressed out about school or with parents or whatever the thing is, and you can still actually be calm, and you don't have to have anxiety or stress. And these tools are there at your fingertips. And it doesn't have to be WiseMind. I'm talking about anyone across the country or the world that hears this. Please, let's get this into schools, because I'm not here talking about this that it's WiseMind, okay? It, you know, it's important. It needs to be in more schools. It needs to be like what is it called? Like a mandatory. I can't think of the word. You know, I'm talking.
That's what I was thinking. It just needs to be part of their curriculum. You know, it's just,
exactly. Yes. Okay, so remind me. I have. Is it Zoe Kids Yoga and Wellness, or did I miss part of it? Tell me the whole name.
Zoe Life Yoga and Wellness.
Okay. Life Yoga and Wellness. Okay, I'm going to put that in the comments.
Okay.
So that is the company that Minnie recently launched, and she has done kids yoga in the past. Now she's looking at revisiting it again. So she's working on her website, you know, working on getting, you know, different business pages and things in place. She's in that process.
Bringing it back to life.
I'm putting that out there, you guys. Okay. So look out for her.
Yes.
And hopefully we'll be chatting on here again. And
definitely.
We can share more too. Like we can talk more, and we'll see about what happens. Like we just talked about, like our daughters maybe going to the retreat in Sedona together. I have an 18-year-old.
Bring them in.
So I'm just trying to think what else. We talked about the program. Is there anything else? I guess what I would ask you, if somebody was coming to you and they said, Minnie, you know, I'm thinking about joining WiseMind Yoga, like yoga psychology training, or I'm thinking about doing it for my own healing and transformation, or maybe as a teacher, as a coach, what would you tell that student?
I would tell them, I'm so happy to hear that, because you are taking some time for yourself. And I think that's the biggest thing, Jenny, is, you know, we all as women, as mothers, as, you know, who we are, different hats, just taking that time for yourself, you know, to better yourself and to better, you know, those that are around you, including your children and your loved ones. You know, it is a healing transformation. It is it's revitalizing, you know, where you really get to understand more about your story, you know, understand, you know, who those, you know, characters were in your life, you know, what was happening and how they were really giving you that purpose and opportunity for growth and strength, you know, and wisdom. I definitely would recommend it. I definitely would. In each areas that it just touches, you know, you cover so many bases, you know, I mean, when you're talking about, you know, the position that you were in that experience, the mind, you know, the spirit, just the soulful side to it, just how the body is reacting to it. And, then comes down to the yoga side to it, the breath work, to help re-energize, to help you refocus, to help you remove yourself from that place. And I'm just, talking in simple terms for others that can understand, what exactly happens, during these classes, during these retreats. And I just feel like it's therapeutic, it's self-loving, it's just something that is so necessary. I think we all need to go through in life, in order for us to continue to grow and truly find our purpose and who we are as an individual, to help ourselves for one, and then also to help and give to others too, as a servant.
No, absolutely. I'm all about living in service, and been doing that ever since I gave up my corporate career to do what I do. That's like a whole nother conversation, because that was a huge, like, letting go.
Yeah.
It was a significant salary and, all the things that I let go of in order to step into this,
Yeah.
So this definitely was like soul driven. And it was definitely a lot of faith.
Yes.
A lot of faith.
Yeah. And I think that's something else, Jenny, you could even share with others, because I think, that that's another whole different topic.
We could talk about faith for hours, Minnie. Okay. Because
we can, I think so many people go through that, because it's a life transformation, and I think that would be great, because sometimes it hits your ego, when you're looking at the transformation, just like you were mentioning, the salary, just the change. But you also need to look at it soulfully. You need to look at it and see what really is really making you happy authentically, So yeah, I'm going to stop, because I know we can continue talking about that.
I'll add to that just a little bit. That I'm a big believer, obviously, in faith, and that you have to choose, faith over fear. You have to choose love over fear. And you can't move forward in your calling on your life if you're living in fear. Right? If you're letting fear hold you back, and you're being one of those perfect procrastinators, or whoever's listening to this right now or listens to the replay, you have to be able to let go of fear. Because if you allow the fear and the imposter syndrome and the perfectionist and those inner critic ego thoughts resistance, you will never take any action. And that, I'm not just talking about with me, I'm talking about in anything in life. So whether it's joining the program or not, or doing something else, you have to be able to take action despite the fear. So the fear doesn't 100% go away. You just learn to be able to kind of put it to the side while focusing on the purpose of what is the purpose that I'm meant to do, and how do I take that imperfect action so that I can take this soul-aligned action. So the fear is still not ever 100% going away. Right. We have to know that as we heal, it gets easier to negate it. It gets easier, and it becomes less and less. But it never 100% goes away. So I just want to clarify that, because even you hear people like Oprah or Brene Brown or whoever, these, other people talking about it all the time, that, you have to step into courage and bravery and let go of the fear. And it's still here, but the purpose and the message and the platform and the things become more important. And so any sense of judgment, letting go of like worrying about what somebody might say about you. Like here I am talking right now on a live, right? We've got one person listening right now. I'm sure there's going to be people that will watch the replay. And that's one of the reasons why we do these is for the replay. Because people go back and watch it. But I say this because, you know, it's not easy to get on a Facebook Live and get on here and talk. Like, and I've been doing it for, I don't even know how many years at this point, over 6 years. But I'm still getting on here and doing it anyway, right? So you have to be able to, again, make your purpose bigger than any sense of worrying about fear or judgment from others.
Yeah. And you know what I was going to say is sometimes, you know, I believe fear has its purpose. You know, I believe fear can definitely be attractive than be so, I guess, negative. Because without fear, I believe that you don't really get to have that opportunity to grow. You know, I believe that there's a reason why everybody has those fears, those insecurities. However, I believe that this is an opportunity for you to really rise from by understanding and being curious to know, where is this coming from? You know, and this is where it will give you an advantage to understand, okay, you know, is this really what it is? You know, am I really afraid of, you know, talking in front of others? You know, what are the, you know, advantage to this? Well, I'm able to connect with others that may be able to hear this, and it may be able to heal them. It may be able to help them. And you're able to break it down to understand, okay, this is actually more of an opportunity to give to me that growth, you know, to help others as well. You know, just taking that time to break it down and understand what is it that it's trying to tell me to help myself, you know?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I love that. Like, just treating the fear out of, like you said, out of curiosity and just witnessing it. And to your point, what is it trying to teach you? What is it trying to show you of like other areas of insecurity or healing or transformation that they need? But I feel like definitely the imposter syndrome is a big one, and it'll tell you to just keep playing small and don't use your voice, and definitely don't step into healing and transformation.
Right.
So, and it's not going to tell you to like step into your purpose.
No.
So,
no, it's not.
Yeah.
And I think that inner critic that you're going to be having, Jenny, I think this is really going to be beneficial, because when you're mentioning about this imposter syndrome and what it's telling you, I know you and I've talked about it. You know, my daughter and I, when we know our inner critics are talking at us, we name them. You know, my daughter's inner critic, her name is Trisha. You know, Trisha just likes to always tell her what she's doing wrong, you know, and she's just always there. And mine is Josephina. Josephina is so perfect, and she has to have it done this way or else, you know. So it's like you get to understand who these are. And I'm not sure if you're going to name them during this workshop that you're doing.
We do actually. It's funny you say that, because we have named them in the past. Some of the other workshops that we've done, and we do. I'm pretty sure we actually do that in the training, because I take you guys through like releasing your inner critic visualizations and naming them.
Yeah.
And mine actually is Myrtle.
Oh,
which was my grandmother, by the way.
That's right.
It was my dad's mom.
Yes.
Who was not always the nicest person. And many times of leaving the table in tears with Myrtle. So yeah, that's my inner critic. But you and I'm going to share one more thing. You and I talked about this the very first time we talked, for like those women out there that might hear this, that may be a professional, or maybe an entrepreneur, or maybe a business owner, and you might struggle with the perfectionist, right? You might struggle feeling like it's not enough, or I'm not worthy. Like, even though you are this, corporate professional or this entrepreneur, you could be a millionaire entrepreneur and still have these things, right? You could be, like a business owner making 6 figures or whatever. It's, you know what I'm saying? It's still feeling like that.
Yeah.
Because I know that, and the other one is the imposter syndrome we talked about, but the third one is the taskmaster, which is the overdoing, right?
Yes.
So that's the overworking, never getting enough done.
Right.
Nothing is ever good enough as far as what we do in the day.
Yep.
And projects are never enough. And that ties in very closely with the perfectionism, because subconsciously we're also trying to be worthy and be enough.
Right.
And we're getting validation from outside ourselves based on our performance. So our identity, we wear a mask of, my identity is my work, and my identity becomes my performance. So I'm no longer who I am in my core and my authentic self.
Right.
I am what I do. Okay. So if anybody out there resonates with this, because I have been there. Okay. Before I did all this work, there was no difference between my work and me. I was intertwined. I was my work. All my identity was based on what I did as a corporate professional. And I can tell you, when I got burned out and I had to take time off of work, and I had a mini breakdown, which led to all this.
Yeah. That
was a tough, dark night of the soul for me to be able to identify and have a realization and awakening that, oh no, this is not this isn't your identity.
Right.
You're first going through it, and you start to have this self-awareness of like, I'm not my job.
Right.
I'm not my business. I'm not whatever the thing is. It can be an initial difficult transition and transformation, because for so many years, many of us, including myself, for 15 years, well, over that, it was in my 40s. I mean, I did it not just in corporate. I did that. I delivered papers when I was 11 years old, Minnie. I've worked over 40 years of my life. I've worked my whole life, right? Yeah. So that like some 𝘄𝗏 pattern, right? Yeah. The work ethic, the overworking, it's very deeply seated in me.
Yeah.
And it's in my family too.
Yeah.
And that's a whole nother conversation. Yeah. So the point is to start to identify why are, like, to your point, how do you uncover the psychology of why do you have these patterns?
Right.
How can you start to unwind them?
Right.
And actually be in a state of peace, and from a place of calm in the chaos, a legacy of peace, and not overworking, and having balance in your life.
Yeah.
Because many of us with this perfectionism, overworking, type A personality, all the things, controlling, like being in the stress habit, busy syndrome.
Yeah.
You're so out of balance in your life, right?
You get lost in all of that. You get lost in it. You really lose who you are, your identity, It's so true. It's interesting because when you're, I've seen this like on a panel when people are introducing themselves, they start off with, who they are professionally, and it's sad because there's more to you, and I think that's what I really enjoyed about, it's really what I enjoy about this yoga psychology, is because this is an opportunity to get you to reestablish your relationship with you, who you are, and that is important, because that's who we are. I mean, we're not in this world to be, this taskmaster, or to be this, CEO for this company, or to be, we are just human beings, and we have so much to give, and it's just not from our corporate jobs in a way,
Right.
there's so more to it. There really is. And I mean, I truly enjoyed this yoga psychology because it really got to it got me to really understand, you know, who Minnie is, what
Mhm.
what and it does work through your inner child. It
Mhm.
really, because I know we did exercises with that,
Mhm.
working on your inner child, and who was she during this time frame. If you were to go back and talk with her, or even in her, because she's still there, you're able to talk to her, heal her, and rebuild that relationship. To me, that is just so important. It's very important
Yeah.
to anybody, men or women.
Right. No, absolutely. Because I mean, I'll tell one last quick story. I mentioned one other thing, and we'll jump off because when we talk about this, we could be on here for 2 hours. But as far as like the inner child work, it's super powerful.
Mhm.
Um, a little story that I have about reconnecting with my inner child, right?
Yeah.
So you can imagine, like, one of the analogies that I like to think about, and we have this in one of the handouts, Minnie, is like, how you have like a face, like if you're wearing like, or a mask, right? You have a mask on your face,
Mhm.
and it's like lifting off a mask, right?
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
you're spending these years like wearing this mask.
Yes.
And for Minnie and I, or anybody else, well, there's a lot of women in this situation that are in a male dominated world, which is
Yes.
the majority of women. So any woman who's in, corporate, or whether even owning your own business, right? Other entrepreneurs, majority of entrepreneurs are men. Like,
Mhm.
so the point is, I had to find myself. This was my personal story. I don't feel like that now. I feel totally comfortable now.
Mhm.
But 10 years ago,
Yeah.
20 years ago, 30 years ago, when I was in the corporate world before I had done all this work,
Mhm.
I had to create a different version of myself. It was a more masculine version of
Yes.
myself. And
Yeah.
that's not who I was at my core. And so
Right.
I had to create this different version of myself, of what I thought I had to be in order to survive all the years that I did in
Yeah.
corporate America. Now, again, now I'm in a different position, but
Right.
then I didn't have these skills,
Right.
and I hadn't done the work of reconnecting with my inner child,
Mhm.
because who I am at my core is very feminine, and is very empathetic, and is
Yeah.
very loving, and is very caring and compassionate.
Right.
And I'm the little girl who like would bring birds that were injured home to my
Yeah.
dad at like 6 years old and say, "Daddy, fix it."
Mhm.
And it wasn't a matter of like if there were germs. I wasn't thinking about like any of that stuff
Okay.
that you would probably think about today with
Yeah.
your own children.
Mhm.
All I was thinking about the fact that the bird was hurt, it was
Right.
injured, and I wanted
Right.
my daddy to fix it.
Yes.
Okay, so that is who I am deep in my core and my soul. Who, when I go back to that little girl, that
Mhm.
little 6-year-old.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so looking at like who I am now, I feel like I can connect with that little girl,
Yeah. Yeah.
whereas like 10 years ago,
No.
that girl was buried way, way, way down under a lot of stuff.
Mhm. It's so true,
So,
Jenny. It's so true because you have your masculine side and you have your feminine side. And I could so relate to you because also with me in corporate, corporate has this masculinity. And um, I did it for over 25 years,
mhm.
and I was so used to that. I was so used to it. And, even being married, it was difficult. It was really difficult because I remember I had to go through that transformation. I had to really identify who is Minnie. This is just her corporate. This is just who she is as that leader. In corporate. Um, and I remember, through my yoga experience, I began learning more about, spirit, learning more about my intuition, learning more about Minnie, that inner child Minnie. And I remember I had gone through this transformation, and it was a little challenging because at that time, my marriage was in stake. My husband at the time was so used to this masculine Minnie, and I think it was more because he was also in the military, and there were times where he had to leave, and I had to wear, the father mother hat, for my kids.
Right.
So I had to stay strong, during the 10 months, that he was gone at times. And it was difficult to change that, because it's kind of like that old pattern that you can easily go back into, and understanding, okay, this is, yes, I do have a masculine side, but I also have this feminine side, and this is where I am. This is where I want to be,
Right.
So it's interesting. And that's something else, Jenny, that you can also establish.
Well, we actually do talk about that, ironically, in our relationships module. We have a relationships module too. We do talk about masculine and feminine.
Yeah.
We do talk about trauma and relationships, how you heal trauma relationships, conscious and mindful communication, all the things. Okay, so we get into that. So I'm going to say this one more time. So we have, again, for the students that have registered for Silence Your Inner Critic. Okay, if you're hearing this in the Facebook group, or maybe you're on the business page, or you registered for the happiness for yoga psychology and mood masterclass, then we are still have our doors open through this Saturday, August the 5th, to book a 20 to 30 minute consultation call with me. And as Minnie said, there is no pressure. There is no stress. This is like having a chat with a friend. And I'm not here to get on a sales call with you. I'm actually here to sell you on yourself.
Yes.
Because this is about you giving yourself what you need and knowing that self-care is not selfish. So if you simply just took this for your own healing and transformation, then that's what it is. But a lot of women will end up saying, well, I'm going to go through this and like, I'll get the certification and I don't know if I'm going to teach or not, but I'm just going to go ahead and get the certification anyway. We do have students that don't do any of that. They don't do the mentor stuff. They just go through, they're in the Facebook group and they go through the training, and that's fine. They go through all the modules because I designed it this way so that it is such a majority of personal development and healing.
Yeah.
Because I've pulled what I used to do with one-on-one clients into this. When I used to work with yoga psychology clients and coaching, mentoring one-on-one, I have pulled that whole process into this training. Okay. So I am sending you all so much love, light, and blessing.
Yes.
Minnie, thank you so much. We're almost on here for like 75 minutes.
Yes. No.
So I am sending you all so much love and light. And Minnie and I could literally be on here all afternoon. So I am going to close this off because we would keep talking. But I am so, so grateful for you taking the time to be on here and to share your experience.
Absolutely.
Because there's no better way for us to share about this movement and this program and what I consider somewhat of a ministry, like with that, like coming from a student themselves, right? Like I can talk about this stuff all day long, but there's nothing like hearing it directly from a student. So thank you so much for taking the time. Really, I really am grateful because I know everybody's busy. So I value everybody's time, and I really appreciate you taking the time to be on
No,
here.
thank you, Jenny, so much. I mean, I'm grateful to be here and have gone through this experience and still continuing.
Yeah.
Still continuing, because I think this is so beneficial for your life. I really do. It's all to do with self-care, like Jenny was mentioning, and love. It really, it's so worth it. It really is. But thank you so much.
Thank you. Mwah. We'll see everybody, and I will chat with you soon, girl. Take
Okay.
care.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Ooh, let me do this one more time. There we go. Putting it in the comments. I'm officially off. Okay. All right.